Good evening. Mothers have been traditionally carrying out the majority of the parenting role when it comes to school and education. I've heard dads say, check with their mom, she does all that stuff. Sometimes it's clear that mom cannot do this alone and she could really use some support. So, what would happen if both parents pursued support academically, behaviorally, and emotionally for their child? As an educator, I've witnessed where one parent has no involvement, making the involved parent seem like the bad guy because that parent does not render in punishment, doesn't aid in the support, and comes across as the bad guy. Men, our boys and girls need our positive male influence in our schools. Schools report that there's an increase in achievement and learning when men show up and actively participate in their child's education. Maybe you witnessed someone or yourself in the past with very difficult barriers to do this. But I'm excited about the changes happening in these men who are willing to show up and the women who are showing up to help with the education and the improvement of their child's life. Enjoy the show, participate in the chat box by asking questions and sharing your personal experiences. I so look forward to this being a great experience for you all.
Hello, everyone. We are so excited that you could join us tonight and be a part of this ongoing conversation. This is not our only and last conversation, but we wanted to start the dialogue about men being present in their child's education. I want to welcome you to the show. I want you to participate. I want to take care of a few housekeeping rules. One of the things that I really need for you to do right now, I need you to make sure that you go over to my DLR counseling group page on Facebook to make comments. That if you want to make comments, I want you to go to DLR counseling group, my Facebook page, and make comments. I so appreciate you, those who you are on my personal page. But we're going to have an exciting time tonight. The first person that I have up is John Buckner. John Buckner.
It's important for men to be involved in their child's educational experience because children recognize that where we spend our time and our energy, that's what we value and that's what we prioritize. And if we want our children to see that we value and prioritize education, then they have to see that in how we show up in their education experience.
All right. Thanks so much, John, for being here today. Okay, I can't hear you. I think you're muted. Okay.
All right, I got my party. Did I get my party call all the way?
So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself and, why this topic is so important to you.
Yeah, so I mean, just first and foremost, I'm a father of 4 children, and I'm a professional educator. I've been a teacher for 14 years. I'm currently teaching middle school. I've worked with special education populations. I've been in administration. I've been in general education setting, and so my life and my work it revolves around advocating for kids, and certainly other people's kids, but I extend that to my own kids as well. And so showing up for their educational journey is something that's obviously really important to me.
So, John, I want to ask you, has there been a special type of case, say, for instance, a student that you know that you've influenced or you got some good results with a student because of your presence as a male and how you help that student along in education?
Yeah, that's for me, that's kind of a tough question because, I show up every day for all of my students,
I
and
like that.
and I'm hopeful that for each one of the students that I'm involved with, that I'm making some sort of impact, that it's meaningful to them, right? But I mean, it's the kids that show up and share their experiences beyond school or beyond what you're responsible for teaching them,
Exactly.
that share themselves with you. It's to me, that's when I know when I feel like I've kind of opened that door with them where they can trust and connect with me, and to me that connection is meaningful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight and just sharing with us. I'm going to bring up my next guest. My next guest is Jason Cornelius, and let's hear what he has to say.
Getting involved in your child's education is one of the best investments that you can make. Learning should not just happen in a school building. It should happen everywhere, in the car ride home, at the dinner table, when you're talking to them before bed. Ask them what they learn and see how they can apply that to the real world. That'll allow them to make stronger connections that really enhance the learning and really helps it stick a little bit. Talk to them. Talk to their teachers. Talk to the administrators. Let them know that you care, and I promise you it'll be one of the best investments that you've ever made.
All right, Jason.
Hi, Danny.
How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Great, great, great. So tell us a little bit about yourself and again, why this topic is so important to you.
Okay. Yeah. So, like John, I've been a middle school teacher for a while. This is my 16th year. And I've seen kids from every background and taught kids from every background, kids with great parents and kids without great parents. And I was lucky enough to be blessed with an incredible mom and dad that supported me in school. And I've seen the effect that it had on me. And I've always thought that maybe I can fill in that gap for some of my kids that are struggling just a little bit with that. I'm currently finishing up my counseling program. Thanks to you. I appreciate it. And I've noticed over the years that just kids need support. And I'm just constantly looking for a way to support my students.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Jason, for being here tonight and participating as one of my great guests. I have another brother, Lawrence. Come on up here, Lawrence, and let me hear what you want to say about education tonight.
I truly believe that education begins and ends at home with the parents, with the family. So I believe that it's very important for me as a man, as a father, to take part in my child's education. It is not only on the onus of the school and the teachers, but it is on us to make sure that my daughters are getting the education they need. And as a black man, it's important for them to see me educated, supporting education, pushing education, because they'll miss opportunities like that just watching TV, reading stories. But they need to see a real life example, scenario of a black man being educated, pushing education. So that's why I feel it's very important to be a part of my child's education.
All right. Hey, Lawrence, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Danny, how you doing, man?
Doing great. I'm so excited to talk about this topic tonight. As a former educator, well, I'm always going to be an educator.
Right.
I've seen a lot of different things, and I know that you guys have a lot of insight to help a lot of young people and their parents get on this journey to success. So, Lawrence, tell me a little bit about you and, why this topic is so important to you.
Oh, man. Well, a little bit about myself. I've been in education. This is my 20th year in education. I spent 13 years in the classroom. This is my 7th year as a school counselor. And I mean, I got into it because a lot of my friends, a lot of my peers in high school dropped out. I started off with a freshman class of 2,200. We had a graduating class of 557, 555. So that right there just sparked, just raised flags. And I knew I had to just wanted to address it, just be something different. I wanted to be what my peers didn't have, what I didn't have growing up. And then from there, that journey has brought me from education into the counseling realm now. So now I'm trying to help out because Mr. Buckner, I think he said it earlier, how when you're in the classroom, you're about the bottom line, the objective, whatever the TK is for the day. But it's those sidebar conversations when the kids sharing experiences with you. That's when education is really happening. And I felt that being in the classroom kind of had me it didn't allow me to touch base with my students the way I needed to. So as a counselor, I feel I'm better equipped and I have more time to actually, meet those needs and who I need to be.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Lawrence. This is going to be a fantastic show, and I'm so thankful that you could participate. Now we have our last and final person who is going to be a part of our panel tonight. That's Charian Knight. Come on up here, Charian, and let us know what you got going for us tonight.
Hello, my name is Charian Knight. I teach 7th grade Abbott and Mansfield ISD. I'm here to talk about why African American males are so important, and when it comes to fatherhoods, when it comes to the education. I'm a firm believer that when you have two parents in the household thrives as long as the relationship is healthy. And it can help the kid in so many ways, not only socially, killing those stereotypes that a black man is not there for their kids, but it also helps them financially. It also helps educationally where, they have homework or something like that. One of the parents can pick up the slack. Same thing with sports. Both parents can be at the games. Like that support from a man or that support from a woman, but it's for sure needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for being. Oh, I called you Lawrence. You're not Lawrence. You're Charian. Hi, Charian. Thank you so much for being here tonight. But I am ecstatic that you made it tonight. I want to hear a little bit about yourself and possibly why this topic is so important to you.
First of all, I want to say I'm honored to be in the presence of everybody here. I am Charian Knight. I've been teaching for 4 years now, unlike my counterparts who've, everybody 15 years plus. Only been teaching for 4. I currently teach Avid in MISD. Men in education is very, very much needed in a variety of ways. Like I said, that support that they need from a male, it can be different. And I know throughout the talk, we're going to talk about the stereotypes. We're going to talk about the gender differences between a male and a female in teaching. But I'm a firm believer that being a male in education is hard, but it's for sure worth it. The influence that you can have on the variety of kids that we see every day, the smiles that we can put on their faces. It's a beautiful sight to see. So I'm happy and I'm ready to engage in this conversation.
Awesome, Mr. Knight. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, I have scooped up a panel of excellent people who are going to share amazing information. I want you to watch this video. And as we watch this video, I want my audience to really think about some of the messages that are contained in this particular clip. And also, I want my panel to come back with some feedback from from this particular clip.
People still say that women should be the primary caretaker. They should be the ones who take time off of work when the new child enters the family, and vice versa. Public polling data says that men are expected to be the breadwinners.
So there's this sort of tension between what's going on in the labor force and the achievements and advances that women have made, but then these societal attitudes that are kind of lagging some of those trends.
My mom definitely thought that it did not sound very ambitious to want to be a stay-at-home parent.
A friend of my wife told her that she cannot ever marry a man who's not working. Well, my job is here with me at home when I'm teaching him in school and when I'm feeding him and bathing him, make sure he does his homework, playing with him. Job does not always mean paycheck. Job to me means responsibility.
Wow. So we're going to hop right into that. So I was thinking about when I started this conversation and being a former educator, I was thinking about how often I make contact with the moms. And when I do contact dad, sometimes I'll say 8 times out of 10, dad would, refer me to the mom and says that mom takes care of that. And I think it's so meaningful to have the man participate, be engaged, talk to the child, know what's happening with the teachers, and not just the mom. I was thinking about that alliance of mom and dad really working together for the best interest of the kid. And it doesn't have to be dad. It can be an influential male in that child's life, because I've had some uncles who were phenomenal and just some volunteers who were phenomenal. So I want to ask you, and I want to start off let's start off with Charian. Tell me your thoughts on the video and like the differences in being a male teacher versus being a female teacher. Do you see any differences when you work with students?
First thing I want to say, Danny, you're not a former educator.
Oh, I'm not. Okay.
You're still in the field. You're still in the field.
Come on.
First things first. Being a male educator, I feel like it's so powerful. When I walk in school buildings, whether it be when I first got the job that I'm at now, I walk in the halls with the kids. It's like, oh, look at this man. Look at him. Look, they get the level of intrigue because they don't see men like me, and they rarely see men at all in the profession that we do. And so I think that level, it's just a confidence booster. It's like you automatic once you walk in, it's like these kids they cling to you. It's like they want some they tend to you because they want something now that they already feel that you're influenced because you're one of a kind when you walk through the doors.
Right.
So when watching the video and just seeing men stay at home dads, I think that's wonderful. Because why do we were raised as being providers, but providers look different in many ways. You can be a provider financially. You can be that provider, being that primary caretaker at the house. And I think if anybody want to stay at home and stay with their kids and take care of them, I commend them the utmost patience.
Exactly.
Commend them for that.
Can I just interject real fast? I want to say my hat's off to you, Charin, because you changed my life in the sense I had never seen a Black man come into education being his true and authentic self. Because when I came into education 13 years back, I knew there were rules and things I needed to do to fit the culture. And when I saw this young Black brother come in there with his braids, but I mean, you handled everything. You were handling the students, handling everything. Awesome. And I was like, wow, what would I give to walk in my authentic self? So I want you to know that you helped me even in that space. So I'm going to transition to Lawrence with that same question. Tell me a little bit about the video. Are there differences for you when it comes to men and education, and maybe you've experienced you may get better results? I'd love to hear from you.
All right. That's a couple of different parts. So as far as the men being able to stay home, to be stay home fathers, that's amazing. That's awesome. And any man was willing to step up and do that. If his wife can't be the main breadwinner, and she can bring it home and you can stay, that's awesome. I think we have to get over those older roles, those stereotypical roles, and kind of understand, like, if the woman is able to bring home that bread, and you get in there and do what you need to do, but we're all in it together to nurture, to raise the kids to be the best. It's like it's not one person's job to do one person's job to the other. It's a team effort, collaborative.
Right.
And so whatever it takes. Now when it comes to males in education, it just depends. Right now I'm at a campus where the male presence is very high. And I've been there for the last 7 years. Male presence stays high. So that was not so different at that campus, male and female. We all just kind of work hand in hand. But when I worked at an elementary campus, and I was one of maybe 3 males on campus, it was me and maybe 2 coaches. Yeah, the burden is heavy. You're expected to now all things with kids. Any kid having type of emotional disturbance, give it to that man right there. He can handle it. He can handle any tough kid. He can handle any tough situation. When it comes time to do the heavy lifting and stuff, you kind of already know that you're gonna be called for that. But as far as being called in to handle any issue because you're a man, and they figure that you're not fazed by whatever the behaviors are coming out, whatever outlandish things are going on in the classroom, they figure a man can handle it. If a man's in the building, call that man. And so my experience is you got to be ready to be on call for whatever, because you will be.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. That's great insight. Tracy said something earlier. I want to bring that back up. It was Tracy Long had a post. It's important for children to see leaders that look like them. It breeds confidence. I could not agree more. I do want to transition. We got a lot to get to, and I want to hear from Jason as to, do you feel like the gender roles are changing, or does it make any difference who's the primary caretaker, or should it be a combination, or just speak on the video, whatever you'd like.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to say I've taught with Charian for a couple of years, and I've seen those kids look up to him,
Yes.
both literally and figuratively.
Uh-huh.
And so I've seen the difference in what Tracy said. So true, for kids to come in and see people that look like them is powerful. And he made a difference on our campus for sure. So, but as far as your question, I mean, it's 2022 now. Things are changing and things are different. It's not the same as it's always been. So I think it's important that whether parents are married or not, or whatever situation, that they're supportive and they're a team for their kid. I think a lot of times, I've talked to my wife about this before, mothers will be taking the load of all the education stuff, and it breeds a little bit of resentment sometimes. I wish he was here with me helping. And so I think that it's time that we say, hey, everybody's involved. This is not this is not a single player game. We're all in this together. I think it's really
wow. That is such a great response to that question. I think you're spot on. I say we're in a different time to where children need both parents. Children need a community. Children need to be seen. And sometimes we're there, but we're not present. Can I get an amen? Sometimes we are there, but we are not present. And one of the things that I really want us to understand, if you're a mom, if you're a father, if you're a caretaker, is how do I engage? How am I supposed to be present with this kid? Sometimes we have to go beyond watching a video or taking them somewhere or buying them something. How about asking them some open-ended questions? Tell me more about your day. Tell me who your friends are. Did you have fun with those friends? What types of things did you do? John, I want to ask you that same question that I've asked the panel as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I would say one of the things that kind of caught my attention from the video initially was that dynamic of letting go of old ways versus the way that our society is changing, with women getting out into the workforce now. Women are more educated now than they have ever been. African American women are the most educated populace that we have in our country, and so that dynamic is changing. Yet the societal structure of how we value education and how we assign roles to women that we tend to value less, I think is a really intriguing conversation, perhaps for another time. But in terms of my own personal experience, I feel like I just feel like men in a school building, it's an opportunity. I do hear some of the things that the other gentlemen are saying in terms of there's things that are expected of us and asked of us because we may be a rare breed in the building at times. But I think it's an opportunity. I think at times, sometimes depending on how kids have a relationship with the male figures in their own personal life, it impacts how they interact with us, right? And so sometimes men are a source of structure. Sometimes they're a symbol of discipline. Sometimes they're stability, right? And if they have that or if they lack that at home. So I think it's just an opportunity as a man to impact children differently based on their current relationship with men in their own personal space. And so I always just see it as an opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much for your information. I was thinking about what you were saying a bit more, and I was thinking about how sometimes you're the only person or the only male within that community or that kid's community that they see. So a lot of times those kids are watching with a keen eye, and you set the tone as to what they can look up to as to possibly a healthy man. I'm not saying all your stuff gone, but the thing is, you're educated, you're there, you're trying to help the kid. things of that nature. So I think, just as you guys have said, it's a great opportunity to be seen and to show what good, healthy, emotional well-being looks like, how to communicate, how to be present in conversations, and how to communicate our needs. Okay, I'm gonna stay off of that because I'm about to go into my counseling realm. Okay, let's look at the next video. We have another video that I kind of want to lead into as well.
Often when males are mentioned as it relates to being in the classroom, they're often viewed as a disciplinarian, someone the boys are gonna listen to. And I think that there's so much more to men being in early childhood classrooms. And I think a lot of it has to do with the cultural context of the children, right? So, they are all bringing with them different things to the classroom. And depending on what that is, that affects how they interact and perceive a male teacher.
I've been working on putting a presentation together, and one of the things that I was looking at is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you notice, there's the physiological, and then there's the need for safety, and then there's belonging, and then after that, we have achievement, and then the next is self-actualization. Can we have achievement without belonging? Belonging happens before achievement, and a lot of times we really try to force that learning, and we try to make that kid behave. But kids like relationships. Kids can size you up and know that you don't care nothing about them, and you just waiting on them to leave. Can I get somebody to just chime in on that? Chari, and I see your face.
Oh man, being in middle school, it's such an age where kids know when you're lying.
Mm-hmm.
Kids know when and they can see it. They see it. They see right through everything. And so I think a part of me being so like me, because I don't want to approach the classroom no other person but me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see them, they see like, okay, he's being for real. He's being honest. I tell my kids I love them, I care for them, and I show that because, maybe a kid is not, and this goes back to the video of a male being disciplinarian. I switch up. I'm not as, I can be that, but I'm for sure the emotional type. I tend to those emotional needs. In my young males and young females, if I see, I tell them the first day, if you're having a problem, meet me at the door. Let me know at the door so I can help you. Let me know if you need a 5-minute break, 10-minute break. Let me know if today is not your day, because sometimes I may come in class. Today is not my day, and that does not mean I'm just acting out and being a no. That just means I have a life outside of this,
right?
Because I know you have a life outside of this. Things, and we as teachers, as educators, we are prepared, or we talk about how students go through rough patches in their life, and we have to pour out of our pot so much. And as a teacher, that's why we're all special, men, women, because we know that we come out 100% every day, even if we don't have it. So that's why I think it's just so important to just walk in that classroom, being that person who can tend to pretty much every need that a student has.
Thank you. That is so spot on. I do want to hear from Lawrence on this particular topic as to having the role of disciplinarian. And also, I love what Charian said about also showing that balance. I remember when I was a teacher, a lot of times I'd just give the face. I ain't up in here playing with y'all today. I'm just giving you the face. And they knew what to do. And it's almost that same command as, the father in the home. It just seems like it resonates because of that male influence. Anything you want to add, Lawrence?
Oh yeah. What I liked about what Charin said, everything Charin said is true. When I was a teacher, I wasn't the best on pedagogy. I didn't think I was the best on classroom management, but I was the best at being myself. And I brought my authentic self to the classroom to meet my students and be whatever I needed to be for my students. Wasn't trying to put I was always an A student or I always did the right thing. No, like I share the truth with my kids because, like you said, real life happens to them and they need to know they get real talk. Kids may not understand every word or everything that comes out of your mouth, but like you said, they know when you're pulling their leg or know when you're BSing them. You know, they recognize real. They
Real
have
recognize
that.
real.
They
like
have that type of intelligence, yeah. So you can't pull one over on these kids. And so I appreciate that. And so, like Sharian said, when we go into the classroom, a lot of times they want us to be the disciplinarian and come in with the bass in our voice and scare kids. But it's not about that. It's about relationship. And so if this kid needs a stern adult, a stern talking to, I'll give him that. But this kid might not need that. This kid might need me to be emotionally available there, supportive there in a different kind of way. And
Lawrence,
so
when you first started, I want to ask you this, though, but when you first started in education, is that a learned kind of thing, like knowing who needed what and you learning how to be what the individual student needs you to be, or you kind of always had that?
Oh no! Like I said, I didn't. My journey to education is different from most. Most teachers knew from the time they were small they wanted to be teachers. I didn't figure it out till later, so it was different there. And so when I walked into the classroom, when I started, I was in New Orleans.
Okay.
And so I was in New Orleans, and I started off in the Ninth Ward. My first year teaching, we didn't have a principal or assistant principal for the first couple of months of school with no registrar. It was just chaos. But just in that, you learn to survive. But the kids depend on you so much.
Wow.
You when you recognize that need, and if you really have a heart for it, you're not one of those people who are going to quit because it gets tough. Because you're there for. I was there for a reason. I was there for a purpose, and so that work didn't scare me away. So when I saw students who were struggling with just making decisions, with responding to conflict, with just getting to class on time, like no matter what the problem was, but just meeting them where they are and trying to help them get to the next level. All the kids in the class aren't on the same page at the same time, and any educator would know that. They expect us to get them all moving the right way at the right time, but realistically, you got to deal with each individual student with the relationship you build with them. And some will be tougher than others, but you got to be ready to put that work in if you want your classroom to be, just totally inclusive and a great working environment.
Thank you so much, Charian. I have hip hop. Let's Ron Mack on the line. That's one of my friends from Atlanta. We were in a workshop together, but just his presence changed my life. Thank you so much for being on today and sharing with us. Jason, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it does make me laugh to think about, being called the authoritarian figure in the school. I'll have teachers come up to me and say, hey, these kids are doing whatever. I need you to go take care of it. And I'll call them over and just say, hey, how you doing today? You doing okay? Something wrong? And I've learned that almost every behavior issue I've ever come across is a result of some sort of trauma in their life. And not to make excuses for things, but it just really is. And so anytime I have issues with a kid, I'll just call them outside and I'll say, hey, are you okay? And kind of like Charlie was talking about, just making that point to really sit and talk with every single kid, because we're in middle school and, our kids are 12 to 14. And I've always described that as they're at a fork in the road, and they're either going to take the right path or they're going to take the wrong path. And to me, it doesn't matter whether you're 12, 14, or whether you're 40, like you want to be heard and you want people to hear what you say. And so that's been my secret, if I have one over the years, is to listen to every kid and take time in class to talk to them and see how they're doing and see what they need. And if they don't have food, I get them food. And they don't have a safe place, we talk to the counselors. And I just could not agree more with everything that everybody said so far. When you look at Maslow's hierarchy, if you're not getting these bottom levels, there's no way that you're going to get the bottom levels.
Thank you so much for that, Jason. I was thinking about when I was in high school and I had a kid who was acting out, and they would always bring the kid to me, and he knew the ropes. I'm like, you need to go over there and sit down and wait till I finish. And I say, you hungry? And we can always break things up with food. You got to figure out what is your thing. What is your thing to help that kid transition? And so some of my counterparts were like, why are you feeding him? He just, because he's in my office now and you gave me this to handle. We have a relationship. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
We have a relationship and he knows my expectation. So I want to hear from Lord, I'm going blank. I want to hear from John. This is live.
Yeah, I'm here for you. Hey, so I want to co-sign what the other gentlemen have said as well, in terms of I really appreciate the idea of showing up as your authentic self, and I would always preach that to my kids. I don't want you leaving anything at the door. Bring your whole self to my classroom, because that's what makes our classroom environment and our learning atmosphere the best that it can be. And so I think when we model that as men and as teachers, because oftentimes I feel like boys are taught to be half humans, like they can't have emotions, or they can't have certain emotions. And so I want all my kids to show up and be their whole selves. And I think that starts with us as adults and teachers showing up as our authentic selves as well. So I appreciate that the other folks have said that as well.
Hey, John, I want to interject. Don't go anywhere. But G Gives Consulting has a comment. And she said, we also have to realize that there are so many family dynamics more than ever, such as blended families, spending half times at one parent's house and half time at the other. Also, ELL, English language, learning, and homelessness. There are some kids who are sleepy, hungry, and emotionally drained. We cannot get to achievement when we don't take care of those basic needs. I will reiterate. And I do think in this COVID-19 era, I think that's why we're having so many difficulties. We're still focusing 80% on achievement while kids are still hurting. Kids are still traumatized. They've lost aunts, they've lost grandmoms, they lost parents. They have lost so much. They've lost graduations, they've lost proms. Did you go through any losses like that when you were growing up? Imagine it. I want you to think about how much these kids have lost. And then I think I would be a little bit angry too. Probably more than a little bit angry. I'd be really, really mad. John, I cut you off. I want to hear a little bit more from you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point in terms of expecting that we can just pave over trauma, that we can just move past things because we're done with them, or we're tired of being uncomfortable with it, and just go straight into the math or straight into the science and history. Like that's not going to happen. We've got to address the other needs first, and I think as in education, we end up spinning our wheels when we take that approach of just trying to move past things and where we get our priorities mixed up. And so I think as men in education, we can do a much better job of being that person that'll stand at the door and say, meet me at the door, saying, hey, I got you. Go ahead and put your head down for 5 minutes if that's what you need. Whatever you need to be your whole self right here in this moment, I'm gonna create that space for you. And so I think we have to be space creators in schools, especially at this middle school level where I'm at, and I know Jason said he's there too, and where these kids are trying to find their identities. If they walk in that school building every day and they can't find a space where they can say, I belong here, then we've got a real challenge on our hands. And so, if that's, and I kind of go back to what, and I'm sorry, I think it was Lawrence. I think Lawrence said it. I wasn't the best when I got into teaching. I didn't have any business being a teacher at the time that I got into teaching, but I'm going to tell you, I knew that I could show up and I could be there for those kids. I could advocate for those kids. I could be a level of support for those kids. And so I think I've grown as a teacher. I've become a better teacher, obviously, but I knew from the get-go that I had to be a person that every kid knew had their best interest in mind, and that I valued them as humans first. And so that was my foundation, and unfortunately, I don't think it's the foundation for all teachers, but I feel like it needs to be, right? We need to recognize that first. We have to see these kids as whole human beings and not just little learning machines. Like they're they're humans. So I think that's a big role that we can take on as men specifically, because our society so often limits, what we're supposed to show in the public face. And so again, just going back to my word of creating space, I think we can do that.
You guys came with the fire tonight. This is such a great conversation. I want to have a part two, but we don't see when. But man, this is so great. Space creators. Someone said, Kim said, space creators. Love that, John. And I remember I was one of those teachers. I did everything by the rules because I was so afraid that I was going to get in trouble. And I really recognized what teaching was about when I had a student who had a whole bunch of things going on, but I found myself going beyond. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes you're going to break the rules a little bit to reach a student who needs to be reached. To this day, that student calls me up and checks in, and I'm like, wow, that is amazing to me. And all I ever did was say, I believe in you. I see you. I know you're better than what you're giving me. And so I'm going to call that thing forth that I know you to be versus where what you show on your tail, as my mama used to say. So we got to get past that phase of just seeing them where they come to us face value and believing them to be more and to call them into something better. Okay, I'm about to make me get my preach on. I want to go to this next video because I think it goes into the next phase of our conversation. Thank you so much, fellas.
Can you name their teachers?
Of course I cannot.
What are your daughter's birthdays?
Why do you do this to me?
What about her?
I give up.
Any guesses?
Yesterday. Oh yeah, yesterday.
Horrible. Her birthday was yesterday and you
Just
forgot
yesterday.
it.
Yes.
Can you name the best friend of each of your daughters?
Mari Carmen Rojas, Jimena Lopez, Adamari Lopez, Cristina Cornejo.
Good. Can you give us the name of their doctor?
Fadi Torres.
Good. Can you give us the name of their dentist?
Games Dentalland.
What are your daughter's birthdays?
Yes, May 28, 2009, August 8, 2013, February 24, 2006, June 8, 2006.
I absolutely love that video because it really captures the sentiments of some of my male parents or the volunteer males who come into the school. And I think one of the things that it shows for me and why I wanted to show that video is because I think a lot of times men are shamed. We're shamed in believing that we should not know versus I have the ability to know and I can actively get to know those friends. I can actively get to know those birthdays, but we come in with these ideas and identities as to who we need to be. It's time to mix that thing up. What we were doing 20, 30, 50 years ago, that's not working today. So I want to hear from some of the guys tonight. I'm gonna start off with John. John, you hot tonight. Y'all all hot.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I'd seen that video before, and that's my reaction. That couldn't be me. It couldn't be me.
Exactly.
I couldn't be that guy. I got to know. I got to be in the know. But I really feel like I feel like there's a societal structure that's at play that allows a man like that to happen. Like, we have I feel like we have diminished this role that women so often carry, that it's almost like it's beneath the man to know their child's birthdays and to know their doctors and to call and schedule appointments and to follow up on those things with teachers. And so I think that's certainly it's our role as men in education is important, but I think it's also important that we be a part of addressing the structure that allows that to take place, right? There's a patriarchal structure that's in place that allows that has created the situation that we're currently in, where a woman would be expected to be responsible to know everything about their child and their children, and that it takes intentionality for us as men to say, hey, I got you. I'm gonna take on that role, or just be genuinely interested and invested in a child's life and education, to want to know those things, that it's important for you to have that knowledge about those things. And so yeah, I don't want to overtalk, certainly, but I think it's important that guy be an example of what not to be, and because we can be and we should be so much better.
That's right. And I was thinking about, sometimes there's the expectation. The expectation, well, he won't know. He shouldn't know. We, as John was saying, we do have to call ourselves to something higher than just mediocrity. Lawrence, I want to hear from you on this particular video topic, what we're kind of talking about.
All right, well, maybe I was out of the loop. That was my first time seeing that video. And so I laughed at first, but then I started feeling bad for the guy. I'm like, because we don't know their situation, and every family dynamic is different.
Exactly.
And so this might be his only day off after a couple of weeks or a couple of months of maybe being on the road, working who knows where, saying, just trying to bring home the make ends meet. So sometimes, I know at my campus with the population that we serve, sometimes dad is always on the road. Sometimes dad is always gone, and so he'll come in when he can, but most of the time he's home. He's going to rest. Maybe he'll stop in the school when he's there to check on the kids' grades. And I think that's more so how we should talk about situations like this, not just because every man is not offered the same the same situation. And so so with that being said, man, I kind of felt bad for dad, man. Like I know certain things about my, I know the teachers, I know things, but there's certain things that I don't have time to know. There's certain details that I don't, but I can't make excuses for that, man. You gotta know a little bit more. You gotta at least know some birthdays. You gotta know some birthdays and some things like that. But I mean, that's a lot of kids there. So if he doesn't know every teacher's name, that's okay. I'll give him a break on that. But there's some basic information. You should show that you've been present. You've been a part of those kids rearing or what have you. But I can't judge that man based on him not knowing everything, because I don't know what he's having to do on day to day.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's so much that I want. Y'all are on fire. It's so much that I want to get into, and we just don't have, I didn't even get to have my questions, but I want to start off with the panel, and I want to ask you, how can we encourage other adult males to be present in their child's education, or in their nieces or their cousins' education? We're at a place to where I was doing some work, and I was thinking about how we've come into this place of isolation. I got mine, you get yours. And we have to come into a place. Back in the day, it was a lot of community. It was a lot of community. I watched your child, I told on your child, I spanked your child. Now, I don't want all the spanking and stuff, but I do want us involved and present. So I'm going to start off with you, Jason. How can we encourage other males to be present in their child's education?
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for starting me first, because these other guys are setting the bar really high.
You're awesome as well.
I would just say it's really important that that you think back to your favorite teachers, or you think back to your father whenever you were younger. And it's not ever what they taught to you about or what they taught you. It's that they were there. Whoever your favorite teacher is, I don't remember what they taught me. I just remember that they cared about me and they checked on me. And so I think we need to change our mindset a little bit. When kids come home from school, stop asking them, "Did you learn anything in school?" They learned something in school. Yeah. Start making them make connections and say, "I know you learned this." Talk to their teachers and say, "Hey, I know y'all are talking about digestive system today. Let's talk about what happens to this corn when you eat it and why you're seeing it a couple days later." Have them make those connections, and that way they're not just regurgitating information. They're learning it, and they're learning to apply it, which is going to make them so much better in the future, and they will get that love of learning and see the connections outside of the classroom. I think it's
Oh,
really important.
wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Those are some great examples. And it's just like you were just saying, like it maybe you're on the road, but you can at least know what the unit plan is about, and you can pretend like you know what that lesson is about. That's what my mom used to do. I knew she didn't know algebra, but she made me think, boy, you better get in there and get that lesson and do what you need to do. Otherwise, something is going to have to give, and it's going to come from me on my end, not getting something that I wanted. So I want to hear from Charian right now.
So I was thinking, being a coach as well.
Okay.
We see that the dads, show up to their daughters or their sons' games. That's a foul. That's a travel ref. Or why my son this and why my daughter that? And their son and daughter love to hear their father or uncle or their male figure cheer on for them or protect them and fight for them. And I mean, I've seen it to where they look to them more than they look to the coach. You know what I'm saying? And so when I see that, I'm just like, now imagine that, but in the classroom.
Wow.
Imagine that same cheering on, or imagine that same fight as they did for on the court or on the field or on the track. Imagine that, but just in the classroom. You know what I'm saying? Cheer on. Oh, you got all A's this 6 weeks. Cheer it on. You're on an AB honor roll, or you got an award for this. And you did that cheer, that smile, that happiness that you can bring to your child's place or child's face when they go through that. I feel like that's unmatched.
I love Char. I love what you said, and somebody reiterated they should be that way about everything, not just sports. The entire child, and we're just not even talking about learning. The entire child. I see you. I see you, Lawrence. I want to hear from you.
All right. Well, encouraging other adult males to be active in their child's life, you would hope that it was something intrinsically motivating. But based on the parent's experience, based on the father's experience, he may not have had the best experience in school, and so he doesn't see himself as being valuable in that. And so you need to find a place to be valuable, like you said, the whole child. I like what Charian said about the same rah rah and all that yelling and screaming you're doing from the bleachers. Do the same thing at the parent conferences or when on report card time or whatever it is, but cheer academics the same way. Put that same energy into the classroom. Put that same energy into your kids studying or to them just being better people. But taking time and doing that. And lastly, just like I said, the experiences play a big role, and just understanding that you don't want your child to have the same traumatizing experience that you had. And so do your best to make it different. Like I said in the video before, I believe that we are the parents where the book ends, we plant the seed. Education starts here. The teachers in the school just water and sunshine, but we do all the pruning, we do the maintaining. We got to bring it in. If it's cold, we got to move. You know what I'm saying? We have to it's up to us. And so we have to be paying attention to our kids. We have to be listening to our kids. And I think being present, being actively present is a great way to encourage adult males to be more active in their child's education.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So I want to lead off with John. John has a unique position that I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him to tie in that question about being an adult male and how we can bring others into the educational setting and participate in their child's life. But in addition to that, I want us to take some of the questions that we received this evening, because I've seen some really, really great things on this feed. So we're going to start off with you, John, just sharing, and I'm going to be reading the questions, and we'll stop and ask you guys some of these questions.
Sure. First of all, I just wanted to thank
You're
Lauren.
muted.
Am I good now? Okay, so I wanted to thank
You're
Lawrence
muted.
for. I'm unmuted on my side.
We hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It was me.
Thank you. Yeah, so I thought Lawrence made a good point in terms of that very last video about the guy and not making assumptions about folks' situations. And I think we can take that same, it would be a good lens to look through this question with in terms of, how can we encourage adult males to get involved in education? I think a lot of it's skill based. I think sometimes we just don't know how. That's why, like Charian said, we see guys show up at football games and basketball games because they know how to do that. That's familiar to them. But oftentimes, if they don't have the skills, they don't understand the right questions to ask, or if they've had negative school experiences, they don't want any part of a teacher conference because they're intimidated by that. So I think first we need to approach it from an aspect of support, just like we are with children, in terms of let's provide access and resources to men on how to ask for assistance with school. Sometimes I've seen parents that teaching middle school math. At times I've seen parents that are intimidated by middle school math, and they would hate to be made to look like a fool because they can't do 7th grade math, right?
Exactly.
And so they won't pose the question, or they won't ask for the support that they need in order to support their child. And so I think providing resources for adult men and what does it look like? What does it look like to be actively involved in all phases of a child's life? Because again, I think a lot of these skills are cyclical. They're passed along from generation. And so if we didn't have that, if we didn't have somebody show that to us, we're not just going to magically snap our fingers as grown men and have it figured out. And so going at it through a level of support, but also an increase in a level of expectation. I think sometimes men are allowed to walk through the world with and be mediocre. And we have to have a higher expectation for our level of involvement as well. And find something that you can latch onto. And maybe it is just sports right now. But let's expand that horizon and let's take it from sports to the classroom and beyond.
Excellent. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate that. I want to take a few questions from our audience today, and just one of the statements is, Monica, okay, do parents expect more from a male educator? Great question, Dr. Mike. Hey, Dr. Mike. Do the parents expect more from a male educator? I'd love for somebody to. Let me ask you, Jason.
No, I don't think so. I've never noticed that. I think they expect something different from male educators at times, but I don't necessarily know that it's more. I think it's all about who you connect with. So if they know that their kid connects with you, they'll obviously ask you to help with that.
Oh, that's a good answer. And you offer what you have. I always tell people, I say, we don't operate out of what we don't have. People think that somebody is supposed to act a certain way. We all have our individual toolkits. And sometimes I need to borrow a tool from a friend over here. Maybe I need to borrow a tool from another person over here. Or maybe I just need to get educated in that particular area. But we come with what we have and we build on that. And I think that's what I would love from educators. Allow men to come in with what they have. They don't want to come in there and grade papers. That is not why we come to the school building. We need to be seen. We need to be in those halls. We need to be on the playground. We need to be out and present. Monica said something earlier about don't just bring something. I don't know where that is, but it was good. And I wanted to highlight that if we could come to that again. But you guys, there is so much more. I'd love to hear any last minute things from Charian.
First of all, I want to say I'm honored again to be a part of this panel with these gentlemen. A lot of insight, a lot of knowledge, a lot of gems that was dropped today. When it comes to men in education, I think everybody touched on how powerful it could be at the end of the day. Whether they are teachers, whether they're parents, whether they're uncles, guardians, even custodians, hall monitors.
Yes.
Their presence means something. And I think that seeing a male when I was growing up in middle school, in high school, even in elementary schools, every time I saw a male, whether they looked like me or not, I just knew that their presence meant something. And for the ones who I knew that really cared about me, and not only just me, but all students, they were just so influential. And so I think without them, you always see women in the education field as a woman dominated.
But it's something unique to have us in that space. I want to get to one more question. When is it too much? Have you experienced parents getting mad when you care too much? I've been in conferences where I've witnessed something like that. Be hard on it. Well, where is that getting you? I'd love to hear from Lawrence on this one. When is it too much?
Well, for me, that question, what does your caring look like? Because sometimes educators can overstep their boundaries. A lot, and lines can get crossed. And so, what does your help look like? First off, but yeah, I have experienced even as a counselor when you call and offer family resources, clothes, food, getting offended like, oh, y'all in my business. We have to ask questions to see if they're needing help. And it's just like, hey, we see a need here. I'm just letting you know, we're just trying to help your kid out. And so a lot of times when pride comes into it, that's when I see a lot of times educators getting questioned about what they're, the effort they're putting in. A lot of people don't really want their business out there. They're prideful, they're private. And so when an educator is really trying to help, you really got to get into that kid's business. And you really want to help, you got to get into their home life. And so, so it all depends. And so even in that case, you have to use emotional intelligence. And you have to understand where they're coming from, but remember that you're here to help. And so you continue to be helpful, continue to listen, to offer help in any way possible. And sometimes, even if they don't want it, you got to find other avenues.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure when it's too much, but
I think you really did a really good job of explaining that, because there can be too much sometimes. I do want to close us out and let you guys know, like, I couldn't ask for a better show. You guys came in with the knowledge, you came in with so much energy, and I think it made for a great conversation. I'm down to do another one of these because I think there's more that needs to come out in this conversation. I do want you to pay attention to some of the offerings that will happen, that will show after the show. And again, stay posted. I have a great sheet if you want to be connected. I need your information. Send me your email address. Go to my website, www.dlrcounselinggroup.com, and I will send that to you tomorrow. All right. Thank you guys for being here. There's a little bit more for you guys to see. Don't leave the broadcast, folks. Thanks, Jasmine.
What an amazing show. Ultimately, we still have a long way to go regarding equity and responsibility for our children's education. Whether we agree or not, men still hear messages or have beliefs that say communication is primarily with mothers when it comes to the responsibility for their education. And that's not all, but that's some. Men, we need fathers, we need dads, we need the father figures, the volunteers, those who want to help in this mission. You are needed and you are valued. I witness changes in men who want to be involved, who see their presence as necessary, and it has to happen right now. Please comment below or send me a message through my website, www.dlrcounselinggroup.com, if you're interested in more information and you want to receive my personal resource list prepared specifically for this show on how men can be present in their child's education. Until next time, I'll see you soon.
It's